All right, let's get started. Hi, you guys. This is Rachel here, the Modern Shaman. Thanks for being with me for another YouTube Q&A video of the week. I always say, but I'll say again, if you're new to this channel, I'm glad you're here, and I would love to invite you to my website, which is themodernshaman.net. Really, everything there that connects with me, that helps you to either be able to send in your questions for this YouTube channel or to learn more through my masterclass teaching curriculum, or to schedule a session with me to sit one-on-one and talk about your journey. Okay, let's get on to the question this week. It is a follow-up question. So this question came in response to the video I did a few weeks back about the forest and how the forest calls to us, and why it has a thin veil around it to connect with the other side. And so a question came in and she says, "Hi Rachel, can you do one about the beach?" So simple enough question about the spiritual impact of the beach and why it may call to us spiritually, and what is it that really drives us as humans to be in places close to the ocean. So the first reason I want to bring up about why the beach really helps us as spiritual beings having a human experience in our human form is that it creates a detox from our overexposure to positive ions, or to positively charged ions. So I talked about this, and you may want to watch that forest video, but I talk about how when there are areas in nature that bring together large amounts of negative ions, these essentially equalize and balance our electromagnetic system. And it feels fantastic. And this is a lot of times why people are just drinking it in when they are in nature. They're just loving the sense of balance that it brings to them. Whether they cognitively know what's going on or not, it's working, okay? Now, the same is true of the beach. Negative ions are created through just a natural process of water moving, like crashing of the waves, water, sunlight, air, and really the natural radiation of the earth. So all of these natural elementals working in their functionality help create an overabundance of negative ions. Now I have to get a little sciencey here, but basically negative ions are so good for us because when we live in man-made structures, cities, we get an overabundance of positively charged ions. And this causes stress, insomnia, headaches, depression, you name it, all the negative stuff. Because essentially what's happening is, okay, the cells themselves, when they are when they are positively charged, they are considered unstable. The cell is unstable. Take, for instance, like a hydrogen cell. I guess maybe I shouldn't get that specific. But basically, they have a loss of an electron, and they're seeking electrons. And so they typically steal or harness their electrons from healthy cells, which causes cellular degeneration. Okay, that's a natural process happening in our cells all the time. But when we get an overabundance of that, and we are basically completely exposed to positive ions all the time, and this comes from appliances, our phones, our cars, being around a lot of cars, microwaves, refrigerators, you name it, all of them give overexposure to positive ions. Now, when we're getting these, essentially, those are highly electromagnetically charged cells, and they feed off of other cells. So they're constantly degenerating the body and exhausting your sources. Now, what causes a balance in the negative and positive aspects of the cell is bringing in more negative ions. So when we go to the beach and there are waves crashing, and this momentum of a natural occurring interaction and friction between the air, the water, the Earth's natural radiation, and the sunlight. It's the perfect chemical reaction to create this just thousands and thousands of negative ions. So when we go there, we are just drinking them into our cells and essentially balancing our electromagnetic aspect of every part of the cells. So it is cellular regeneration at its finest, and we just receive it. It's beautiful. So that's the first thing I'll say about why the beach is so good for our human form. And when this happens, we start to just live in our fullest capacity of this human functioning machine, and it is phenomenal. Our biological machine is absolutely divine, and when it's working at its utmost, our immune system literally is fighting off disease without us even knowing it. I mean, we are just amazing when we are working in our full capacity without any breakdown or degeneration or overabundance or overexposure to certain things. So especially if you live in the city or somewhere that has a lot of electronics and appliances, or you're just around a lot of activity that has that positive charge all the time, it's really important to get to places like the forest or the beach to balance that equilibrium of your electromagnetic charge and give yourself some negative ions. Okay, there's also other things that do that. There's stones that do that, tourmaline in particular. But for the sake of this video, and you asked about the beach, that's one of the things that is a huge bonus to our system that we need. Another thing that's really spectacular about going to the beach is that it's essentially sound therapy. Now, you can see this drum behind me. Shamanic drum has a typical resonance of around 4 to 5 hertz. Now, this is in connection with the frequency of the theta brainwave state. So theta brainwaves are anywhere from 4 to 8 hertz. When we are in that brainwave state, we are intuitive, we are daydreaming, we are connecting to the divine. We have a sense of inspiration and meditation, and we're in this positive kind of open and still brainwave that we are putting out as our frequency and emitting this just like a Wi-Fi signal. This is the signal we are outputting. Now, the wonderful thing about the ocean and the waves is that they emit a regulated frequency of typically around 4 hertz. So, and this all varies. I'm being general because it varies with the wind. It varies with different phenomenon, but for the most part, it stays in sync with a theta brainwave frequency. So it induces this natural peace. And if you sit and you listen to the waves, it will create a harmonious, because it is regulated. It's a regular pattern. So just like if I was to sit and drum on my drum in a regular rhythm, it would move me into a trance-like state that my brain waves, because they are in alignment with the heartbeat, start to move in syncopated rhythm with, and you find harmony. So this amplifies, or it doubles, it's not always double, but it amplifies the impact of the theta brainwave state. So essentially you are using your own harmony to bring about a frequency of a theta brainwave state to connect with the sound frequency that the waves themselves are creating. So there is a natural harmonization and an amplification of the theta brainwave state when you're at the beach, and it's sound therapy. It's meditative therapy, and it moves you into a peaceful connection with the non-physical world. This is the ease of the intuitive state and inspiration state. So this is what everyone enjoys when they are in that meditative state or hypnagogic state, kind of in between the waking active realms of our brainwave state and the sleep-like state. So it is that in-between relaxed state that literally is a therapy to our mind, to the brain itself. And finding resonance with another peaceful, harmonious rhythm moves our body into that same rhythm. Our body always wants to find balance. It is always seeking that. And so if you're familiar with binaural beats or the use of frequencies to train the brain to find harmony, the same is true with any sort of sound therapy, whether it be shamanic drumming, whether it be gongs, whether it be singing, chanting, toning, the ocean waves, rain, you name it. You can find a particular frequency and the body will always seek to find harmony with that. It will seek to bring itself into a certain frequency itself to be able to harmonize. That is our natural way. So binaural beats, I just mentioned that, but it is the process that literally putting one frequency in one ear and a differing frequency in the other ear, that our brain will create the difference needed to bring them into equalized harmony. So if I put 5 hertz here and I put 10 hertz here, my brain will create the difference of 5 hertz and will begin to create the frequency in its brainwave of 5 hertz in order to balance those two. So essentially I'm brain training my own frequency. And that's a way to bring yourself into a particular frequency. So this is all part of how and why sound therapy works. The beach is no different. It also has a deep resonance, and that deep resonance is in connection with the heart chakra. So our chakras also have frequencies that they're associated with, and this is a beautiful frequency that brings us into our heart space. It's connected with the breath as well, because we have the intake and the outtake, the exhale and the inhale, which are also associated with the same synchronization of a wave-like pattern of moving in and moving out. So there is a lot of created harmony when the patterns around us are bigger than us and we step into them and align. It's resonance at its finest. This is another reason that the beach is phenomenal for you. And then the last thing I'm going to say is about the ability that water has to imbue and to store information. So the water is like a huge resource library of emotional energy. Emotional energy is the most intense, or I would say the most accessible. Okay, when I look at past lives and I go into readings, or even when I do remote viewing, it's easiest to move my consciousness or to connect with a certain timeline, a certain dimension through emotional energy, because it has the strongest, I'm going to say, density to it or weight to it that pulls. So it's easiest to move through timelines, through dimensional spaces, through forward or backward, using emotional energy. Now, all that being said, water stores emotional energy, and it stores it like information. Literally, it can be read. This is how our body also stores memories in its literal cellular, the molecules in the water in our body. Our body is mostly water. And if you've ever seen Dr. Emoto's work, I've mentioned that a million times, but Dr. Emoto did the study of picking an emotional word or language, putting it over water, over a petri dish that had a drop of water in it, and studying the molecules, right? And how they form. And they would fractal out into beautiful snowflake imagery. You can look this up for the positive language, the positive emotional energy associated with that word, or with the emotion more so that's initiated when thinking that word. Now, we're doing the same thing all the time in our bodies. We are thinking and speaking through our clairaudient thought, right? It's not an auditory exterior word, but we are hearing it in our mind. hearing our words or thinking those thoughts in our own clairaudient space. This is the non-physical way of speaking. This is telepathic language. When this is happening, our body is listening to the emotional language. And you better believe that every water molecule is either fractaling out in beautiful snowflake creation. This is how creation works. Or if you've ever seen Dr. Emoto's work on hate and the language of negativity, it atrophies, it shrinks up, it decays. It has cellular degeneration happening here. So this is visually expressed in Dr. Emoto's work, but this is always happening within us, within our own body, and you will literally shrivel up and begin to atrophy under negativity, under negative thoughts, because our body is storing the memory of the emotional language. It is a library of all of that. This is why we're able to go backward and forward, like I said. And when I train and teach quantum readings, quantum tunneling movement through timelines, this is the way we do it, through emotional portals. So all that being said, when we go to the beach and we are around large bodies of water, there is a plethora, like this huge resource of emotional storage there that you can imbue with positive energy. So when you go to the beach and you're bringing your friends and you are set with the intention of having a good time, the water literally feeds you that energy back emotionally. If you are going to the beach and you're sad and you're depressed and you need a sense of like letting go, it's feeding you that energy as well. So it is a powerful storehouse of information. This is also why a lot of times those that are, I'm just going to say genius in their mind, that are connected to the other side, that are channeling highly specific information, bringing in data and detail, can gather that through water and like to be around bodies of water. The bodies of water, even when we get to the scientific understanding of water running underneath pyramids, running underneath Tesla coils, there is information that is moved better through the utilization of water molecules, because it's a huge storage facility. There's actually computers made of water in cutting edge science. So there's a lot there of why the information and the resource of water and the imbuing of the emotional memory and what it stores for you is available when you go to the beach as well. It is literally a storehouse or a library that you can utilize to either imbue and have fed back to you, or use as a resource to learn from. I can't even tell you how many crazy multidimensional experiences I've had on the beach or in the water or in the ocean. I'm sure many can share their stories on here as well. So I hope that's beneficial to you guys. If nothing else, it will encourage you to go to the beach.